Hi, my name is Dr. Padilla. I'm a professor in computer science and psychology, and I've been a faculty member for over 5 years. We are hitting the peak of application season, and I thought I would do a video about a very potentially tricky topic, and that is how to ask an advisor for a letter of recommendation. This is particularly challenging because it's sort of this social engagement where you're asking someone for something, and it's uncomfortable if you don't know the norms for how to do that. So I wanted to give you some best practices for effectively doing that and teach you some things that you might not want to be doing when you're asking for letters of recommendation. So the first thing we need to talk about is who you'd actually want to ask for letters of recommendation. The tried and true advice is that you should be asking people that you have the most experience with, because they will be able to write the most thoughtful and in-depth letter about you. So this is an individual that you have direct research experience with. Maybe it's someone that you've taken several courses with. In any case, it needs to be the person who has the most experience with you. And this can be kind of challenging if you don't have a big portfolio of research. And this might actually be one indication if you might not be fully ready to apply to graduate school. If you don't have people that really know about your research prowess or your kind of scholarly prowess, that might indicate that you should take a little bit of time and develop those relationships. But in any case, it needs to be the person who has the most experience with you. And generally, applications ask for 3 letters of recommendation. Now, I have many students every year asking me for letters of recommendation when they've only taken 1 course from me. Now, I usually provide those letters of recommendation. They wouldn't be as strong as if they had come from someone who had more research experience with that individual. I can basically only comment on how they performed in the class, what types of projects they worked on. And that is, in some ways, a shallow recommendation. It doesn't really tell the people evaluating you about the breadth and strength of your research. Next thing to talk about is when to contact these people. The goal is just to do it as early as possible. Professors are busy and things slip their mind. So you want to give them enough time to write this letter, and that's usually a month in advance. If you know them very well, they might be able to turn around a quick letter for you. But in any case, you don't want them to rush the process. So as much lead time before the application is due is the best. Okay, so let's get to the nitty-gritty of how you might actually contact them. I put together a little template here that walks you through some of the key elements that I think are useful in order to get a strong letter and to get those letters in the first place. So you begin with any introduction is fine. The way to usually begin these is to thank the individual for the time that you have already spent together. So they have given you oftentimes volunteer hours of their life, unless it's just in a course that you were with them. But a lot of the times when people are doing research with you, that's time that they could have spent doing other things. So they, in fact, volunteered their time to work with you. So it's really good to thank them for the time that they spent with you. The next important part is to describe what you gained from that experience. So you want to say something to the effect of, during your course, I found X so enriching and it has meaningfully impacted my career trajectory, or this research project that we did together really formed the foundation of my research interest, something like that. So you begin to build a dialogue with this individual. The next part, you're simply saying, I'm applying for PhD programs, but what you need to mention here is the specific schools, the specific professors, and the due dates. And I would go ahead and list each of them out. Why would you do this? In part because a letter writer can craft individual letters for different schools and different programs. And heck, they might even know some of these individuals. So it will be more of a personal letter between 2 people that know each other if they know the person you're applying to work with. And I think it's a good practice just to give them all of the information possible. The next part is simply saying, I would very much like for you to write this letter. I would appreciate it, being thankful. And here is where you can start to craft this message in such a way that will give you a higher quality letter. So oftentimes, the one letter writer isn't going to know who your other letter writers are. So it can be useful to tell them specifically what you would like them to focus on or areas you're hoping that they could fill in your resume. So for example, if you're asking someone who's a professor where you took one of their courses, then you can ask them to specifically comment about your scholarly work or your academic rigor or your ability to learn new concepts quickly. If you are asking a letter from an individual that you did direct research with, you can ask them to focus more on the insights that you had about the project or the ways that you advance the project independently. This is just giving the individual you're asking the letter from more information to help them really craft a high quality letter. Now, here's the best part. And anytime students do this, I am so excited, but students are very, very reluctant to do this part. And I think you should do it. Try to give it a shot. This is where you detail the specific things that you did with that individual. So for example, I wrote, to help expedite this process, I've included a list of the projects and achievements that I've completed under your mentorship. And this is where you can itemize the individual things. So for example, if you were in their class, you list the grade you got in the class, and you list the projects that you did. You can even attach the project to this email. The trick is that you do not want these individuals who are writing these letters to do any more work than beyond thinking deeply about you and how wonderful you are. You don't want them to have to go dig through the class, find your grade, find your project, etc. Make it easy for them. And that will make the letter more positive, I guarantee you. So this is where you kind of see them with all the information that you think would be relevant. So really, this is any achievements, any things that you've learned, any techniques that you learned from them. If you were supportive on any project, list that, list the specific things that you did. And this is in part because professors are absent-minded. We're working with so many students and so many things going on, we can forget what you've done when you worked with us, not because of any malice, just simply that it slipped our mind. So reminding them all of the things that you've done will really allow them to pack your letter with relevant details. And that's what people who are reading your letters are looking for. The last bit is just a closing. Please let me know if you'd be able to write this letter. Sometimes they will decline to write the letter. Now, if you're in a situation where you were not great, where they do not recommend you, I want to say 99.99% of the time, they won't write you a negative letter. They will write you no letter. That is the polite thing to do as a professor. So if someone declines to write you a letter, it could be because they didn't have necessarily positive things to say, or they didn't have enough to say. They didn't feel like that you had done enough work with them for them to be able to comment on the likelihood of your success. But this is where you ask, would you be willing to write a letter? I always close this, and it's very successful when writing this to professors. I understand you are very busy. I deeply appreciate your time and dedication. This is just acknowledging that doing things like this, writing letters for students, is something that they do outside of their normal job hours. They don't have to do it. It is extra. And so if you can close with that, sort of acknowledge the time dedication that they're putting into that, is usually very well received. So in closing, you want to send this out as early as possible. Try to be mindful that these individuals are very pressed for time, and you might be applying to 5 or 6 or 10 schools. I don't know. It's going to be a lot of time for even them to just upload this to individual websites, and they'll probably be doing this for 3 or 4, maybe 10 different students. So making their job as easy as possible will ensure that you get the best possible letter from your letter writers. I hope this was helpful. Again, I find these videos very interesting and fun. I really enjoy making these videos because I know a lot of you have the same questions, and I really hope that it can help with your career success. If you found this video useful, please consider clicking the like button and subscribe to this channel for more professional development content. Take care.